Welcome back to the Tracy Take. My name is Tyler, and I will be your co-host tonight here along with my brother, and we are going to be reviewing the crazy Week 15 games, and also then at the very end, going to be previewing the Thursday Night Football Week 16 matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets. But before we get into that, we just want to say welcome. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you can see when we go live and also when we create new content. Come the new year, Ryan and I, we're going to be putting out a lot more content. We're going to be breaking up videos, having a lot shorter segments. So definitely want to be in tune for that, especially as we get into the offseason and preparing for the draft, which is probably my favorite part. A lot of thanks to the Dynasty League that I'm in with some college buddies. Totally different. I know I bring it up. It's absolutely just, I really enjoy it. It's fun to watch. So hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment on what your thoughts were. Week 15 is and who's going to win the Week 16 Thursday Night Football matchup. And Ryan, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Just to kind of start out, I'm a Falcons fan. Ryan, you're a Patriots fan. What do you want to talk about first?
You want to talk about Matt Ryan's career collapses? Is that
No. We were going to talk about the Patriots collapse because that's more relevant for the topic.
Oh man.
No, we were just talking about a pregame pre-going
pre-show
live, and
yeah,
it's just absolutely crazy. I mean, in one decision, so many playoff chances, kind of across the AFC, really just changed just like that. Like absolutely just changed. Chargers. It was honestly actually within, because I was watching the Titans game, and they were at LA, and it was within a span of about 100 seconds. The Chargers came down the field after the Titans tied it up, probably going to go to overtime. Chris Herbert had some amazing heroics. Mike Williams had an amazing catch. And then Dicker, the kicker, made the field goal. And then all while that was happening, Keenan Cole scored. And then whatever happened at the end of the game happened. So you as a Patriots fan, let's go back to the Keenan Cole catch because that was a huge controversial decision. What's your overall take on that? Well, you're a Patriots fan, so we know what it is. But no, I'm just kidding.
I didn't think it was a catch. I
don't think so either.
The camera from the field goal post pointing down showed that his toe was on the white line. There's some pictures going around that, like, some people think it shows that he's out. Like, there's a lot about it. My big thing, they were moving the ball at will. It was 2nd and 10 with like 35 seconds left.
Yeah.
They still had 2 more shots to get a first down, let alone a touchdown. And I think if the Raiders had won that game in overtime, that would have been a super controversial play. However, New England went and did what I'm going to quote the longest yard, some scrum yard bullshit, and fucking threw the game to Chandler Jones. And then Chandler Jones stiff-armed Mac Jones and the Patriots' playoff hopes straight through the turf, and then he ran it for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Like,
what? Oh, sorry. Go
ahead. There's no excuse. Jacoby Myers is in a contract year trying to get re-signed in New England. And I'm not kidding. I think that play alone is going to make him play elsewhere next year.
I thought about that immediately after I saw it. I was like, because I saw that player getting cut, and then I saw Jacoby Myers. I'm like, he is their best receiver, and it's like, well, you guys can't pass the ball for shit. So it's like so they might cut him and just be like, screw it. I mean, like, what the hell are you doing? But and I'll make this argument only just because in defense of Jacoby Myers, what was Ramondre Stevenson doing pitching the ball? Because when you run the ball there in that situation, for me, that is a overtime. I don't know why. You explained it to me a little bit before we went live, and it was a good point. But for me, just initially, I'm like, why are you running the ball? If you know you're going to go to overtime, just kneel it.
Yeah.
And then don't even give anyone that opportunity. But even then, though, like Ramondre Stevenson is like, why are you pitching the ball? And then Stevenson got saved because then Myers was like, hold my beer. And just absolutely just butcher the whole game.
For me, the Ramondre Stevenson, the run play, it's a low-risk play. They were running a 3-person front with 6 guys at least 20 yards away from the line of scrimmage. So you have favorable matchups within the first 10 to 15 yards, and then it's Ramondre Stevenson in space on safeties and DBs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, maybe he busts one. Maybe he gets taken down by a face mask. Gets like you get a penalty, and then you get an untimed down from the end of the run. I understand the run play, and frankly, you were 50% of the way there with the run play and Ramondre Stevenson, right?
Mm-hmm.
All you needed was the penalty, but Ramondre Stevenson gets 40%, and Jacoby Myers gets 60% of the blame because Ramondre Stevenson should have never lateraled that ball. He should have double tucked it, and then gone down right there. And then if there's a flag, there's a flag. And then Jacoby Myers, he should have been like, "What the hell are you doing?" Catches the ball and then just falls down. Just fall down, or throw it out of bounds. Throw it out of the damn stadium. I don't care. Like, like anything other than that. And it's just like, what are they like? What are you doing? And to me, the Patriots didn't deserve to win that game. I don't think the Raiders really did either. Both teams are abysmal. That's probably the worst offensive performance I've seen all year from New England. Mac Jones missing open receivers. Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers all had drops. Tyquan Thornton not getting separation and utilizing his speed. Schematically, I mean, just very poor, like very basic. That Raiders defense is not very good. You should be able to exploit that offense. And for them to only put up 17 offensive points is piss poor, in my opinion. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it is especially that Raiders defense. I mean, Max Crosby, I think I'm pretty sure he's a Pro Bowler, but he is by far their best player, even if he's not a Pro Bowler. Mm-hmm. So even, I mean, it's like that's one defensive guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you should be able to scheme for him, but he's not the biggest of game changers. He just happens to be the best player on the Raiders.
Yeah. You want to know?
Yeah.
Sorry. You want to know another play that I don't understand? All right, so it's 3rd and 11. Patriots are pretty deep in their own territory. They run a fake draw play and let Mac Jones keep it one-on-one with Max Crosby. What, like, you don't think Mac can at least throw for 11 yards? If you don't want to throw for 11 yards, then run it. Like, you've been running the ball pretty well all day. There's so much with this team that does not make sense. They're not well coached on offense and special teams. Their defense is probably top 10 in the NFL.
Yeah, your guys' defense is good. I mean, that's
but it's a complete letdown because the other two phases of the game, they are abysmal. Like, they absolutely suck. Mm-hmm. And it's like you have one heroic play from Marcus Jones against the Jets that got you a win there. If not, that game probably ends in a tie because no offense was able to move the ball. Like, you have a lot of lucky scenarios to even get you to 7-7. Like, it's a poor performance this season from New England. The Raiders are probably even more disappointing if you look at what we thought they would be at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Because at least we expected New England to not be that good. Like, those two teams are out of the playoffs. In my opinion, the AFC race is pretty much set, with the exception of the Titans and Jaguars.
Yeah.
Which you want to jump into that now?
Well, yeah. So that to me, the AFC South is, because I was looking at it just on how the like doing my season. I was going through like the season prediction to see kind of where teams might end up picking. And there's really only 2 games on week 18 that are probably really going to legitimately matter heads up. It's going to be the Bengals, Ravens, but both those teams are probably already going to be in the playoff. The Titans and Jags, though, play in week 18. And if you look at the Titans schedule, who do they play here? They play Houston this week, and then Dallas. And then Dallas, and then Jags. That's a much tougher schedule than the Jags have, which is going to be the Jets this week, the Thursday night football game we're going to be going over. And then they play Houston next week and then hosting the Titans, who they just kicked the snot out of last week, I believe. So the Jags are in a really good spot, in my opinion. And they just look better. They just look like a better team. I watched the Titans-Chargers game, who the Chargers were probably the main benefactor from that Raiders-Patriots game. And the Titans just look – they are not able to run the ball. Ryan Tannehill – sorry, not able to throw the ball. So team guys are putting 8 in the box. And even then the Chargers secondary is actually pretty decent. So they were able to shut down a majority of the Titans offense. But to Titans credit though, Mike Vrabel gets this defense playing really well, and they were able to stop the Chargers. But the Chargers have a lot of flaws. When they go up against a team like the Jaguars, who have flaws but are overall more well-rounded, especially offensively, especially when it comes to the offensive line, as we saw last week, they're just able to kind of overpower them on defense. The biggest thing to me is for the Titans, though, it's kind of the same as your Patriots. They are so one-dimensional on the offensive side of the ball that it makes them very easy to defend against.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was just about to say. This, like the same thing, is that the Titans and the Patriots. Granted, it's a Belichick, Vrabel, like very similar coaches. I mean, Vrabel played for Belichick, so they're just very similar. And like, if you look at all the Tennessee teams where Derrick Henry was rushing for 2,000 yards, they were like one seed in the AFC a couple years in a row, actually. AJ Brown was there. And like they had a threat outside of Derrick Henry that would keep one or two safeties back because they had to respect the pass to a certain level. And like they don't have that anymore.
Well, and you also had during that time you had Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator that was there, and he's now the Falcons coach. And I've seen he calls good games. Arthur Smith is a very creative mind, and he was able to do that. He obviously was able to utilize Derrick Henry. But then at the same time, though, he knew how much of an effect he had, and that opened up the rest of the field for them. That's when Jonnu Smith really took off. I think Jonnu Smith had an 8-touchdown year. A.J. Brown obviously grew up and became the stud that he was there. And then who was it? Then they had Corey Davis also. So even when you had A.J. Brown on one.
Julio Jones was there last year also.
I know. They paid him $15 million for one touchdown throughout the whole season. So Julio Jones didn't really add too much. As much as I'm a big fan of Julio Jones, it's just he was hurt.
More the name when he was out there was you have to look out for him. But
Corey Davis honestly actually provided more than Julio Jones. Not saying that Corey Davis is better than Julio Jones, but to me now the Titans they're struggling. Another thing too in the Titans defense, I think I saw a stat in the Chargers game. They have had 80 players play at least one snap this season, and they had so many injuries, so many guys getting hurt. And just all freak little things, it seemed like. And Tannehill's definitely all banged up. He actually missed a portion of the first half because they had to go rewrap his ankle because he got rolled up on. And he got carted to the locker room. I think part of that might have actually been just to speed up the process so he didn't have to walk. But it definitely just looked worse. But he can't move. So, and I say all that, and then I think about Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence is on fire. Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk, they're all playing super well. Travis Etienne out of the backfield is playing great. Then who's their other guy? Now their backup running back, who's younger. They also drafted him, I think, with Etienne, but they're a really good running
I actually
combo.
Don't know.
Because shoot, I forget. But they're all playing really well, and this defense, that defensive front of theirs, is playing decently well. And so,
Michael Hasty or Jared Connor?
No, I thought there was someone with a longer name. I thought it was a longer last name. No, what?
Connor. No, that's really it.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, whoever the running back combo was, they did draft someone in there. Am I making that up?
You might be.
I might be.
One of the things,
be an IR maybe.
One of the things with the Jags that's really promising. So, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Marvin Jones they're having a good year. Calvin Ridley is on that roster right now, and he's a former first-round pick. Really good for the Falcons. I think he's a really good complement to Marvin Jones and Christian Kirk because he's kind of like the in-between guy.
Well, so Marvin Jones is going to be on his way. I mean, because I think Marvin Jones is 32, 33. He might be in the last year of his contract. I'm not sure how old Zay Jones is, but he's the guy who's really come on as the number 2 guy because he's had some really big games over these past couple of weeks. Because then you still have Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has been a very solid receiver, very consistent all year. But yeah, you have Calvin Ridley coming back, and there's a couple of tight ends in this draft that I think that they might be able to take. It all depends on where they end up drafting and how deep they go, if they make it to the playoffs. But if Michael Mayer, he's going to be the number 1 tight end. If they can get another solid receiving tight end, now that's several good options now within Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence is only getting better. He is definitely improved from his rookie year to this year. He is playing so much better. He is actually now – He's actually, that was one of his biggest concerns coming out, I remember, was could he become the throwing threat? Because he was a really good college quarterback, obviously, because he was just a big guy, could work really well in that run option, but he also could throw. But he was the most consistent thrower. Now he seems like he has definitely made that leap in the right direction.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the Jags are if anybody of the, in my opinion, 4 teams that are still really in contention, you have the Raiders, Jags, Jets, and Patriots. The Jags are the team I think that could make the leap, possibly even into the wild card if one of the teams in the wild card falls off. But I think it's much more likely that they win the division, being a game back, and they still play Tennessee.
Well, then if they beat Tennessee again, it's looking like that Week 18 matchup, assuming that both teams beat Houston. And then also if Jags beat the Jets this year, they're going to have the same record. So it's essentially going to be the first round of the playoff. And one quick thing, they do have Evan Ingram, actually, that has come on as their tight end, who has been playing really well this season. So that's the guy I forgot because I also know I just made the tight end reference there. But he has had several great games for them. So everyone is just gelling on the Jacksonville team. They seem like they're having a good time. Seem like they're playing, having some fun. It's just gonna be, honestly, I think if that defense and that secondary can kind of just hang on. But that's why I think that they match up really well against Tennessee because they don't really need to have a good secondary. So same thing against Houston. I am curious. Houston now, this is 2 weeks in a row, and I know I bring this up just because now I'm talking about the AFC South, and this will be my last thing. I wonder if they're going to have a say on who wins because Houston's going to Tennessee this week.
They've been playing well too last couple.
They've been playing well. They fought hard against Dallas and Kansas City last time. Last time they played, actually, I think did Houston beat Jacksonville? I can't remember if they did actually. 1 second here, but I know, of course, this was also the game that Malik Willis played.
It was 13-6.
So that was a long time ago. That was against Jacksonville, Week 5. Yeah. So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't beaten the Texans, and also when the Titans played, now it was Malik Willis's first start.
Yeah,
I don't think he really contributed too much, but the Titans only won 17-10. I don't know what happened really with this Texans offense, but they have found something where they're able to put up some points, especially against some pretty good defenses and some of the top teams in the league. So, I would not be surprised, honestly, if Houston's able to pull off an upset this week and maybe even continue that with Jacksonville next week.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think this Houston team has some potential. I like some of what they have on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm excited to see them build. But last 2 weeks, they played the Cowboys and the Chiefs, both of which have clinched a playoff berth. Cowboys had to go 98 yards to win.
Yeah,
and then
they were an inch away from scoring with 60 seconds left to go up 2 scores, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So
and then they took the Chiefs to overtime, which is kind of crazy. And Harrison Butker had to make a field goal to send the game to overtime. It's not like they threw a Hail Mary and caught a ball.
No, I know the game was already tied. He missed the field goal. The game was already tied. Yeah. He missed the field goal. But even still, though, still to have it come down to Harrison Butker kicking a field goal to win the game,
Yeah.
For the Texans, I mean, obviously you want to win. They're all professionals, but if we're looking at the grand scheme of thing, it's like they are competing. It reminds me a little bit of the Lions last year. They had and of course only a couple weeks, but they had this as well where they fought hard and played well, even against the Eagles earlier this year. I mean, they lost 29-17, but they ran for over 100 yards against them. Damian Pierce alone. So they have some receivers there. Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins is a solid one too. They're probably going to draft another. They're both on IR, but they both have had.
Okay.
Well, I think Brandon Cooks is back. I think Nico Collins might not be on IR. He just missed the past 2 weeks. Okay. But they both been having solid seasons, and especially Nico Collins growing into what seems like a potential future 1 receiver, if not a consistent 2 receiver for them.
No, I agree. Let's go ahead. Let's move on now to the NFC because a lot happened this week in the NFC in terms of the playoff race. For starters, San Francisco and Minnesota clinched their division, so they're guaranteed a home playoff game. And Philadelphia is a win away from clinching their division, locking in Dallas at the 5 seed, as Dallas has also clinched a playoff berth. So a lot going on. The only division that's not already locked up is the NFC South, which has been sloppy at best.
Jeez, man, I wish it was sloppy.
Yeah,
they wish it was. I mean, you have even the Bucks yesterday. They come out and they play an amazing 30 minutes, but go to halftime 17-3 against Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati's not playing well. Well, I'm sure they weren't. But then, I mean, it wasn't the worst collapse that we saw this week. But I mean, it was. No. I mean, and to the Buccaneers' defense, trying to stop that Bengals offense is tough. But man, they made it too easy for them. It seemed like
31
multiple turn. I think Tom Brady had turnovers in the second half.
I think he had one interception.
No, but I think he had 2 fumbles too.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he had 2 fumbles.
I can't see. My computer's being a little slow right now. I'm not so sure on the turnovers. Also, too, you can't always blame quarterbacks for fumbles. Especially Tom Brady, I don't think he was out in space when it happened.
He wasn't running like Michael Vick, and he's just holding the ball out there with his fingers.
Exactly. And
that's fair.
Yeah, that to me that highlights a lot of the issues that they've had this season of just being that offensive line just obliterated with injuries from training camp on. I want to say that them and the Rams.
Just decimated.
Have the most offensive line injuries in the NFL.
I think you had to put the Titans up there as well. But either way, though, it's still for all 3 of those teams. Even if it is the Titans, it's not as bad. The offensive line, obviously, every offensive line is crucial, but for those teams specifically, Matt Stafford's not the most mobile of quarterbacks, but you need him to be healthy and also need time for him to throw to Cooper Kupp. And Tom Brady is obviously probably the slowest QB in the league right now. And so he definitely needs an offensive line. And so it's just really tough. And what's interesting, too, on why I don't think why I just think the Buccaneers probably are still not going to win the division. I mean, they have another game against the Panthers, and the Panthers held them to 3 points earlier in the year. But they are just a matchup nightmare, I think, for Tampa Bay because they are able to get pressure with 4 guys up the middle.
Yeah.
And so then they have a really good secondary to help cover. But that being said, though, it's like Carolina
in the first matchup, Tampa Bay made a lot of mistakes early, and then they kind of got demoralized on offense. And then they couldn't stay on the field. Carolina, I think, had 17 fourth quarter points or something, and then the final score was 24-3,
21-3 or something like that.
It was a little bit of a different. It was an odd game, for sure. I am excited to kind of see what that looks like now. Tampa Bay has 3 winnable games to close out the season. They play the Cardinals, Panthers, Falcons. Which Cardinals they should win because Kyler Murray's not playing. Cardinals looking
I also don't think
disarray.
And I don't even think Colt McCoy is going to be playing either because he got a concussion. Unless not saying that is like smoking gun or anything that the Cardinals are going to win, but
little preview for tomorrow's episode. The Christmas Day games suck.
Trying to remember them.
The night game is Tampa Bay at Arizona.
I know. I'm pretty sure Denver Rams play.
Oh my god!
Yeah, Green Bay, Miami. That's going to be the most interesting game.
Yeah. That's
going to be rough. That's going to be rough. I'm sure when preseason, it's funny how the season go, like how anything can happen in football because preseason, you look at those games and it's like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
Christmas Day is going to be great. Yeah. And now you have Green Bay's beating up on a Baker Mayfield-led Los Angeles Rams. Both those teams are going to be playing on Christmas Day. Miami's the best team hands down. But that shouldn't even be close of a game. Oh god, that Denver! I almost want to watch that game just to see how bad it is. But with the NFC though, and I just kind of wrap up on the NFC South because it's just I don't know where to go from it because it is so unpredictable on who is going to show up. Yeah. On each week because now you have the Saints playing the Browns this next week. Saints and Falcons played this week, and it was a typical Saints-Falcons game, especially with both teams. It was a good game. It was fine. The Saints ended up pulling out. Falcons started their rookie Desmond Ridder, who they drafted in the 3rd round. Very curious to see what the Falcons do with their draft, especially if they end up picking in the top 5. If they want to go with him or if you have C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young sitting there, maybe even Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, if they like a guy, if they take him also, just to see what happens. But then you have the Saints, who they're just consistent. I mean, they are not going to blow you out of the water just because they can offensively with Andy Dalton at the helm. But they have some talent, and the defense is pretty good. And the Panthers, you don't know what you're going to get offensively, but defensively, as I've said, are pretty decent. And the Buccaneers, man, they just look – Buccaneers just look bad. And they're arguably – I won't say that. I won't say that they're the worst team in the NFC South, but it just seems like they just can't win games. But they are also probably playing the toughest schedule since they won the division.
Yeah. So, to me, they're playing the toughest schedule.
Yeah.
They're set up the worst for the future, in my opinion.
Well, it's what the Rams did. I mean, and we're seeing it now with Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
They sold their future so they can win Super Bowls now, which I'm perfectly fine for.
But the Bucs, I didn't do it they didn't put all their chips in that pot, like the Rams did. They just have older players on their roster, and they're starting to get injured, and so because they've had those older players, these new younger players are having to come in and play, and they're not ready. They're having a whole other issue, I think, than the Rams. The Rams just don't have talent. They don't have money or draft picks to replace talent. The Bucs, injuries galore, and just young players. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. With the NFC South, it's I want to have some great philosophical take on who I think is going to win, but it's man, all 4 of these teams are just bad. They're just bad.
Yeah, I'm still taking Tampa Bay. I think they win on Sunday on Christmas Day, because the Cardinals are eliminated from the playoffs. They have nothing to play for. They're playing with a 3rd-string quarterback, and then their other 2 games, each of those teams are a win away or a loss away from being eliminated from the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and who are the Panthers playing this week again?
Detroit.
So
a loss, probably.
Well, and you know what? And it's a real possibility that Tampa Bay wins this game and then the other 3 teams lose because Falcons are at Baltimore. And I think I don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to be playing. It's probably going to be Tyler Huntley that goes up against the Falcons. Even then, though, I still kind of leaning towards Baltimore. But, I mean, that's going to be a run-heavy game, so which kind of leads into the Falcons' favor. But other than New Orleans playing the Browns, who knows what either of those teams show up. And then also Panthers playing Detroit, who's arguably probably the hottest team right now, one of the hottest teams right now. So it's gonna be tight. We were talking a little bit about this before, and just me speaking about the Falcons. It's one of those I like that the Falcons aren't tanking, and so we're seeing a lot of potential. It's like this is like because I hate tanking, but at the same time, it's like they're playing better football, and I'm glad that they're still losing.
To me,
at the
Falcons are doing the definition of what tanking actually is. They're not throwing games. They're just giving young players opportunities to play and see what they have. So that is what tanking should be. Throwing game you're not allowed to throw games in the NFL, so that's a little bit of a bold statement. But trying not to win games is like what some of these teams do, and I think that's a bad motto. Because frankly, I think if you look at the Falcons, if they have a good quarterback, so like they go in this draft, let's say, I'm not a fan of this guy, but let's say they get a Will Levis, and he comes in and functions as your guy's Josh Allen. In 2 or 3 years from now, he's starting to make some of the Josh Allen throws. Like you guys have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Olamide Zaccheaus if he's still around. And if you guys add any other weapons to that group, which I think is going to be a good group to add to, I really think that is.
It's kind of it's kind of the right way, like the unwritten rule, right way to go about doing it. And I think Detroit did this also, and we're seeing the success now. But it's like 2 years ago, they just sucked. They just looked bad. A lot of veterans. Then they make the trade. And last year, they have a lot of young guys playing. Jared Goff is the veteran quarterback that comes in, but they build up a lot of draft capital, and then they lose all these games, but you see a lot of positive steps moving forward. And that's what I'm saying about the Falcons. Like last year, I think they still went like 7-10, but you didn't really see too many positive steps moving forward. It's kind of a bunch of veterans that it seemed like, and they're just kind of hanging on. But now they've made some trades, brought in a lot of young people. And so it's nice to see the future a little bit. That being said, though, I'm looking forward to I want them to win. At the same time, it's like, if you don't, it's not horrible. So it's a weird feeling. But let's move on to other portions of the NFC and not talking about how great the NFC South is. The biggest thing I want to talk about actually right now is the outcome of the Sunday Night Football game, the Giants versus Washington. Huge implications there. Giants were able to pull it out. Shout out to Brian Dable. Because he really has set this team up for success. Daniel Jones is playing out of his mind. Saquon Barkley, I'm glad he's healthy because he's one of the best running backs in the league. But given everything that has happened to these Giants receiving core, Brian Dable absolutely was able to set up a game plan that allowed Daniel Jones, who played out of his mind, but allowed him to pick them apart. I mean, the scheming that they had, the receiver route runnings, that was a really good Giants game. They were able to put together. I think they had an 18-play drive to end the half. Absolutely took the Commanders' offense essentially out of the game. And they can be very effective. Yeah, I would say with their receiving core.
Especially, they had not had a good stint coming in the last 4 games. Lost to the Lions, lost to the Cowboys, tie, lost to the Eagles. All the losses
were a lot.
Yeah, they lost the Cowboys was by 8. But I want to say that was like a 28-13, and then it was like they scored a touchdown.
Well, that was the Thanksgiving game, and the Giants, I think it was tied at halftime. Giants were leading at halftime just barely, and the Cowboys were not playing well. And then the Cowboys just came out and absolutely took over.
Yeah. And so it was not none of those games were close. The tie was a really sloppy tie. And they came out and they controlled this game from the first whistle.
Yeah.
And also props to Brian Daboll, but also I think this defense played really well. Kayvon Thibodeau looks legit. And I'm excited for what they have. I like Daniel Jones in this system. I know that's a controversial take amongst Giants fans of being a fan of Daniel Jones, but I mean, he has all the physical attributes, and you can see him starting to put some of the pieces together. I know he's in his third year. Is he a third or fourth year guy? I think he's a fourth year.
Pretty sure he's a fourth year guy because of his fifth year option. I think because I think that was the conversation. That
they would have already had to pick up his fifth year option.
No, I know. Yeah, like they did it. Okay. Yeah. Let me double check that. Go ahead.
Oh, but you can see him start to put the pieces together. I think it'll be an interesting transition from when they actually have a more balanced offense to really see what he can do. But right now, I think he looks good. And I think this Giants team is on the right track behind Brian Daboll.
So it is not looking like they did. Yeah, and it does not look like that it does not look like they took the fifth year option. It does not look like there are currently contract talks going on right now.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting too about that is, when is Saquon Barkley's?
I think he already got his extension.
Did he already get his extension?
He was the year before or 2 years before Daniel Jones.
True, but they would have taken the fifth year. I don't know if they would have offered him an extension yet, though. It is looking like he is an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Oh, I hope they have a lot of cap space.
Well, so that's the thing. And how old's Barkley right now? He'll be 26.
25, 26.
Yeah, he'll be 26, it looks like, in about. So, I mean, and both those guys, I mean, maybe not Daniel Jones, but just what the quarterback market is. I mean, they're going to be expecting him to pay up, essentially. Not pay up. Saquon Barkley is probably going to want to be paid up because he's one of the best running backs in the league. But he's 26.
He's the heart and soul of that offense right now.
Oh yeah, with Daniel Jones, and I think one thing that I'm seeing with, at least what I saw last night, is definitely saw. I know there's a bunch of comparisons, but I think you already mentioned as well. But just could see Josh Allen in a similar build, similar style of play. And you saw what Daboll was able to do with Josh Allen.
Yeah, now he's not as thick as Josh Allen. He can't take the beating that Josh can. But
no, but you could still. He is athletic enough to where you have to pay attention to when he starts running the ball. And if you roll him out and there's no one in front of him, like, he can go run for 10 yards pretty easily. So I'm very curious to actually see. I did not know that about their contract. That's very interesting. To me, I would honestly probably stick with the quarterback.
I think so too.
Because Saquon's going to want a contract until he's 32, and just with running backs,
so
you just can't do that.
That I think that they might do is franchise tag one of them, and then backload a contract with the other. Just to kind of keep both of them there. That's something that other teams have done. I think the Cowboys did that with Zeke and Dak.
We all know what you meant.
Yeah. And so I think that's a good way to go about that if they want to keep them both. I think Daboll wants to keep them both. But I mean, we'll have to see. This is kind of a conversation for the off season. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into the Thursday night game for this week. I think this is a really interesting game. As whoever loses, I think, is eliminated from playoffs.
Well, so Jacksonville,
maybe not mathematically, but
Jacksonville will have to see. because this is under the assumption that Tennessee will lose to Dallas, but if Jacksonville loses, but then wins the next two games, hosting Houston, and then also actually I think they're at Houston. Either way, Houston and then Tennessee. Then I think that they still are in because I think they have the tiebreaker against Tennessee. So that's under the assumption that Tennessee definitely loses to Dallas. But that being said, though, for the Jets, this is definitely a win or go home type game, and so they looked a little bit better, especially Zach Wilson looked a little bit better against Detroit. The secondary for Detroit definitely is it's probably their weakest spot. So that's why, I think Zach threw for about 250 yards. And so a decent game. But Detroit's just tough to play. The best matchup for me that's just going to be interesting to watch is going to be how the Jags handle this Jets defense, because this Jets defense is legit. Sauce Gardner is the real deal. I mean, picking him 4th overall was the best decision.
He's the best. He's the best corner in the NFL, arguably right now. Like based off of his man coverage stats.
Yeah,
like he's only had 18 balls thrown his way all year in man coverage, off of like over 150 snaps. He's allowed 7 completions for 36 yards or something. Like no touchdowns, and like he has 2 picks. Maybe.
Those stats are ridiculous. And it's amazing, too, because the whole talk about him coming out of college was like, it was Cincinnati. It's like, is it really? He's not playing the same level of competition. And then now he's doing it now against NFL level competition. Did he end up allowing a touchdown in college? Did he allow one?
He never did. He
never allowed a touchdown.
He almost did to George Pickens in the bowl game, but he never did.
You never did. Yeah. That's, think about that. I don't care who you're going up against, even if it's D3 football. That is still a stat you have to recognize. 4 years and you don't allow a touchdown. That is insane. That's definitely, at minimum, get eyes turned your way. But then also he's playing for Cincinnati, who then played for a college championship. So, so I say that he's going to lock down whoever's on that side of the field. DJ Reed, their other corner, solid corner. There's a great 1-2 punch in the corner. And then I bet you have the defensive front from the Jets. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough for Jacksonville to pull this game off. So who do you which way are you leaning?
I'm leaning towards Jacksonville. I think they're the hot team right now, and I think the Jets have simmered down off their hot streak. They've lost 4 of their last 5. And it all kind of started with the 2 losses against the Patriots. I think that locker room just lost a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, I will say at that same time, Breece Hall also did go out as well with an ACL. So I don't think. Zonovan Knight has had a good couple of weeks. He didn't have a good week last week, but he went on a couple of week stretch there where I think he was close to 100 yards, if not surpass 100 yards. So they, that being said, them losing Breece Hall, I think, was a big hit to that offense because it definitely they did not have the big running back punch that they were used to having.
Oh yeah, I agree. To me, especially with Zach Wilson behind behind center, this offense really struggles. Mike White, I think at least they have confidence in him, and he's probably more well liked in the locker room, and guys are more willing to get behind him and play harder. But with Zach Wilson back there, I don't see that. I think, especially after his comments after the Patriots game, the team has frayed away, kind of frayed from him. And I just see that carrying over. I don't think the Jets are nearly as good. I think they have a good defense, but this offense still, to me, is just not nearly as good as the Jaguars. So,
yeah, it's interesting too because you guys have, or not you guys, I guess the Jets have kind of the pieces in place. You know, you have Garrett Wilson leading the way, and you have Corey Davis on the other side. You got a solid tight end combination with C.J. Uzuma and Tyler Conklin. There are pieces there that are there in place. I think another thing that gets overlooked too is if I remember correctly, I think they have had some offensive line issues. Elijah Vera Tucker has been injured, and also Mekhi Becton has also been out. But that's definitely going to affect the QB play and offensive play. So, but you're right though. It just seems like this offense is just lacking. It's not as explosive as it should be. And so, but I'm also leaning towards Jacksonville. Part of it to me is definitely, I think, also just a little bit of a momentum thing as well.
Yeah.
I think overall, the talent on the offensive side of the ball is going to have a little bit more of an advantage, especially on a shorter week. And so the Jets might not be able to be prepared. Yeah, well, yeah, no, but you're right though. You've been fairly consistent on that point.
When you can't drop X's and O's and you have to play matchups, it's a lot harder to win by being well coached.
Yeah.
But
I will say that, I mean, I'm picking Jacksonville, but it's definitely going to be the X factor to me is going to be the Jags offensive line, because if they could stop Quinn and Williams and company, then I know. But that's what, if they're able to contain them, then I think Trevor Lawrence and company, I think they'll be able to move the ball down the field enough, because I don't think this Jets offense will be able to exploit some of the weaknesses on this Jacksonville side.
No, yeah. And again, I think that this Jets team has very little confidence in Zach Wilson, even though he has had some good moments this year. And we've talked a lot about trajectories of teams and just kind of, like you said, momentum swings. And it just feels like the Jets are just on like this slow decline with momentum, and the Jaguars have just kind of skyrocketed a little bit. And I think part of that is, I think they're a young team and they've played together now for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And they're just like getting used to playing together, like learning each other's habits, and practicing hard, and you can see it pay off on the field. So I think the Jaguars come away with this one. I'm going to say 31-21. I think the Jags have a fairly decent offensive day, and take this one home. So
I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. I would probably project like a 24-17 type game. I do think Jacksonville leads the majority of the time, though.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Jets may make a late push and do that. I don't know. I look at what the Jets have given up to teams like the Vikings, the Bears, where they have, well, I guess like the Bills, but that's a division opponent. I just think I feel like Jacksonville's going to be able to put up some points. It's not an opponent that they see a lot, so yeah,
that's fair. I mean, it's going to be a good game, especially this time of the year. I mean, it's going to be end of December. Every game counts. This is the first round of the playoffs for Jacksonville. It essentially is on Thursday. So
I agree.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have any comments here? No, none. All right. Well, do you have anything else that you want to add to this episode?
No, I mean, it was a crazy week.
It really was. Like,
I mean, and to start it all out with the, I mean, it's amazing to see going from like Brock Purdy clinching the playoffs for the 49ers, then to the Patriots game. So much happened in between. We didn't really even talk too much about the Colts game and the Vikings game. I mean, because the Vikings clinched, but I mean, I don't really know what else we would say that people haven't already said because it's just amazing that you could give up. It's funny, I say how can you give up 33 points in a half? But the Vikings did it in the first half. They gave up 33 points.
Yeah,
and then
the Colts just gave up 36 in a half. The second half was 36-3 in favor of the Vikings, and then they scored the field goal to
Oh yeah,
win
they
it.
did. Oh yeah, they gave up 36 and a half.
Yeah,
Oh
they
yeah,
gave
because
up
it was
36.
39-36.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That to me. I mean, going back at it and like looking, I do remember thinking like, okay, like the Vikings actually like have a path, but it's just so like improbable of a comeback. I mean, it's the first time, it's the largest comeback in NFL history.
yeah.
So
I was even thinking because it's like, but if you just do the simple math though, where there's 30
yeah,
minutes and a half. Even if you run the ball every single time, so it's 2 minutes off the clock, and then do everything in your power to make their drive last 5
yeah.
minutes.
Well, that
And
was
so
the
then,
thing.
well, and so that right there, then if you do that, if you allow that to happen 4 times, it's 28 minutes. So like try and find 2 minutes in there. But even then, so like you're gonna have the ball in those final 2 minutes. So now you got to get a first down, because then like, if it
Yeah,
all plays out like that, to get a first down, they'll use up all 3 of their timeouts, and then you can just kneel. But it's like I know that's much easier said than done, obviously, but still though to give up essentially 5 touchdowns.
not essentially. They gave
That
up
they
5
did,
touchdowns.
yeah. Especially, I think wasn't there 3 in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Yeah. It was 36-3. Or no, sorry,
And
36-7
and
in the
they got an interception in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they did. But it
So
wasn't like the 3-yard line, which Jalen Reagor, that is unacceptable. He just stops.
yeah,
Like that's an incomplete pass if he doesn't stop running. But still, it's an incomplete pass. Like on
yeah,
1st and 10. Like who gives a shit? Like
yeah.
clock stops, you're not wasting any time. Also, too, there were a lot of officiating blunders this week. The most important one could have been the no call fumble that was returned for a touchdown that would have tied the game with like
Oh
4.5 minutes left.
yeah,
That could have screwed over the Vikings.
yeah.
So
That's one. I mean, there are several of the roughing the passer ones, but
yeah,
I mean, like that's we've been saying that all year. But that one, I'm surprised that because we're talking about the Zach Moss one, correct?
yeah, he fumbled
Yeah,
it.
not the Michael Pittman one. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the Zach Moss one, I almost wonder. I'm curious what happens. Like, how did you even think that he was down? I'm just curious because it was just a pile of bodies. Like, I think you
And also
let the
everybody's
play.
standing still.
Yeah, so I think you just let the play on. But I don't know
So
what they talk about or what they see. I
so
guess.
to me, that's really frustrating. Like that play is really frustrating because in the owners' meetings from this past offseason, they were talking about having officials let plays play on and then doing a booth review after because all turnovers and all scoring plays are reviewed, especially if you have a turnover that is a scoring play. It is reviewed all like automatically. So the
Yeah.
right decision will be made. And for the ref to have stopped that play, especially when like it was no question a touchdown. Like
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Zach Moss was still standing.
yeah.
Absolutely still standing.
Well, what I meant was who's the guy who picked it up? Was that Daniil Hunter?
No, it's number 39.
I forget his name.
Well, yeah, because he unsportsmanlike conduct penalty
He
afterwards. He
did
threw
get
his
it.
helmet off and started yelling.
Yeah. Which to me is a slap in the face because he was completely right.
Yeah, I get it. I get the frustration, but at the same time,
Yeah.
there's the rule because that happened to the Panthers earlier this year. You can't take your helmet off while still like on the field of play, especially. And it's like I think do. So I think a lot of guys do that. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
But then the Vikings actually ended up having to punt. I don't think they scored on that possession.
No.
So that was, or maybe that was the possession with the interception.
I can't remember.
You don't
All I
remember?
remember is that the Vikings won.
Yeah.
And there were a
And
lot
so,
of
like,
Matt Ryan Super Bowl references.
in a league that is emphasizing like let the play out and we'll review it after, I think it is complete ignorance on the referee part to not only call the runner down, say the ruling on the field is down when a whistle is not blown to stop the play. And
Yeah.
like, and the guy had like more green in front of him than like literally possible. Like there was no guy within 15 yards of him. But
Yeah.
and it's like that is really frustrating to see.
Well, it's just a consistent thing that we've
Yeah.
seen. And then even then when we go back to and it's not where you just ask questions because also it's the NFL. This league is worth I don't know how many billions of dollars, and there's all these questions
Yeah.
about just the littlest simple of things, and even then going back to to the Patriots Raiders game like with Keenan Cole, and it's like we want to argue about the call, but then another thing that just comes to my mind is like how is there not a camera
That's exactly what I was about to say.
exactly right down that line, or even we have the pylon camera. Why is there not a camera on both sides of the pylon, or like was
Yeah.
that one not working or effective or something
I
like
think
that?
actually I want to
But
say I've seen him with both. Like it points down the goal line
I,
and the sideline.
same.
Like
Same.
yeah.
So, my dog has a lot to say about it as well. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
can hear that as well, but it's like these very simple, basic errors,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, there's a lot of basic things I think that they need to figure out because. And we've been saying all year, but this and then the concussion protocol. Well, the concussion protocol is not the most basic thing, but
Yeah.
I think overall player safety I think is very basic
Yeah.
to have a discussion about. Um,
Yeah.
and so, but yet we just keep seeing it happening. And there's human error in everything. People are going to make some bad calls, but it just seems like it's getting more and more egregious.
It's to me, I don't want to say that referees need to start being like fined for egregious penalties because then you like for egregious misses because then you start getting into the debate of like, well, what's an egregious miss, and then it's this whole other debate. Um, but they do need to start fixing this
Mm-hmm.
because, like you said, there are fundamental mistakes that are being missed
Mm-hmm.
by these referees, and it is like granted it's easy to be a referee on the couch when you have replay and announcers speaking into your ear, but like these are fundamental things of like if a ball gets loose and you're not sure, like 100% sure that the guy is down,
Mm-hmm.
let it play on because then you can just go back and review it, and if he's down, he's down. Like
Well, and even in this play specifically that we're talking about with Zach Moss,
yeah,
it happened so quickly. Like because you see him
yeah,
go into the pile, and the pile's moving, then all of a sudden the
there's a
Vikings
guy
guys,
running
yeah,
that
there's a
way.
guy running the
Like
other way. So I just remember it all happened so quickly, but then I think it's even more noticeable too because people were still upset about how there should have been or what people thought should have been the other fumble recovery earlier in the game with Michael Pittman. But that one though,
yeah,
it's totally. Also, it was the same player too. Ironically, he would have really liked that for his stats and his and contract negotiations. But that one though is totally different than with the Zach Moss one because with Pittman, it was a forward progress that was called, and it just happened
yeah,
simultaneously, and it was forward progress. And at that
hmm
point, you can't go back and figure it out. Even though Pittman was still fighting for yards, he wasn't moving at all. But so I think it was because of that play then and how they thought that they got gypped on top of then
yeah,
the clear horrible call of the Zach Moss fumble,
hmm
where it was like, what are we doing? I mean,
yeah,
what is this? This is ridiculous. But the Colts are very generous people, and they thought like, hey, that should have been a touchdown.
yeah,
So they were able to
yeah,
bring them back into the game.
yeah. So yeah, well, honestly, I don't know if I'd rather be a Colts fan or a Patriots fan this weekend. So
I mean, Patriots, because you also have 6 Super Bowls.
I mean, true. This weekend specifically, not the last 20 years. Uh, because in my opinion, the Patriots probably put up the worst play.
I mean,
NFL history.
True, but give it 10 years and no one's going to really remember this Patriots game. The Colts are now in the record books. So
I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
They're and as a Falcons fan, trust me, the Colts will get reminded of that every single time. So I was getting reminded about it while watching the Colts break a record. So it was there's a Patriots fan. Yeah, that loss sucks. We've all been there. Well,
I don't know if we've all been there. That's a pretty unique way to lose a game.
For the Patriots?
That's a pretty unique way to lose.
Well, yeah.
I've never seen.
Let's put it this way.
Anything like
let's put it this way. Your loss was like a bullet to the head. It happened so quickly.
True. Yeah.
The Colts loss, and then this Falcons Super Bowl loss was like death by 1,000 cuts. Where you just eventually slowly accept your fate.
I agree.
I mean, I would take a bullet to the head because then it's just over with. So
one of the things too, I will say, and you can ask Abby about this.
Yeah, how's she doing? Yeah, was she nervous?
I was like so stunned that happened that I actually was not like I didn't swear at all when it happened. Mom would be proud. So like. But I was just like,
you were lost for words.
I was like, what are we doing? Like, I actually in a way kind of laughed, but I don't know. Anyways,
well, because that's what I said. Because it happened so quick, it's such a jolt to the system. But then when you look at it from perspective and from experience, when you look at the Colts loss, it's just kind of like there's still that moment of hope, which probably is what makes it like way worse.
Yeah,
is there's that moment of hope, like okay, just one play, one interception, one sack, one fumble. You're watching the clock and everything. But with yours, it's like all you remember is Stevenson running the ball. Okay, now Jacoby Myers has the ball. What are you doing? Game over. Instead of 2 hours for a Colts fan that just had to watch their team
slowly let the team. Yeah, that's fair. I agree. All right, good point.
Yeah. I know I've lived through it, so yes, I know it is I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's fair. But all right, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so we can ping you every time that we go live. And other than that, we will see you guys